Welcome back to the Deliberate Exchange, where we talk about the hard resets that we face in life and we turn them into rooted, empowered rebirths. If you don't know me already, my name is Chelsea. I'm otherwise known as the Deliberate One. I'm a coach, a guide, and forever a student of just doing life a little more deliberate. Now, if you are here, you have clicked on this episode because there's a chance that you are standing at the beginning of something. Maybe life has cracked open for you recently. A breakup, a job loss, a death, or just a season of change that you didn't see coming. Maybe you feel like you are at ground zero, unsure of what's next, and unsure who you even are anymore. And I get it, I have been there. In a very short span of time, I divorced my husband of 13 years. I had to relearn how to be single and how to trust love again. I watched my stepdad die, somebody that I deeply cared for. And I got fired from an industry that I had spent 16 years in and a career that had shaped my identity. And then I quit drinking, also part of my identity. So I know the feeling of losing everything that used to define you. And I also know that it can become the start of something amazing. Not because everything magically gets better, but because when you lose the old scripts, you finally get to ask better questions. So at the beginning of my rebuild, I realized something is that I had never truly asked myself, what do I want? Not what I should do, not what I was expected to do, not what looked good on paper, but what do I actually want? I had done all the right things, the quote unquote right things. I got the house, the title, the relationship, the identity, but I hadn't stopped to check in to see if any of that was actually mine. And so this episode is about finding your way back to yourself, using your own desires, your own energy, and your own sense of alignment to build a life that actually fits. So we'll start with the first piece, the law of attraction. Now, the law of attraction isn't just about thinking positive and magically attracting a Tesla or something. This is about energetic alignment. It's the idea that what you focus on expands, that the energy you lead with, like your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, influence what you either attract or repel. And when I was starting over, I got really, really honest about what I wanted to attract, especially in a relationship. I made a list because I love a list. And it looks something like, I want a partner who is emotionally available. I wanted a partner who took care of themselves. Somebody who loves out loud and does the work when needed, somebody who is grounded and supportive. Beautiful, right? Like that's a hell of a list. But I went further and I asked myself a harder question. Am I those things to myself? Was I emotionally available to me? Was I taking care of myself? Was I grounded and supportive for myself, or was I being harsh and constantly self-abandoning? I got to tell you, that question cracks something open, and it leads to a deeper universal law that also changed everything for me, and that was the law of correspondence. It's also known as be, do, have principle. And it says that the life that we're living externally is always reflecting who we're being internally. So if I want a nourishing, easeful, aligned life, if I want a connected partnership, meaningful work, and clarity about my direction, I can't just do more. Like that's futile. I have to become the version of me who lives that way. Be, do, have. Be the version of you who feels calm and grounded and loved. Do the things that support that version of you. And eventually you'll have the life that matches it. And I want to say something very clearly here, especially if you're feeling frustrated in a relationship, that sometimes when we feel disconnected from our partner, it's not because the relationship is broken. I spend a lot of time doing that. It's because we are disconnected from ourselves, because we're outsourcing everything. We want it to be on somebody else to fix. We crave intimacy, but we're not being intimate with our own needs. We crave emotional safety, but we're constantly judging ourselves harshly and living in our minds with these mental gymnastics. We want to be chosen, but we haven't even chosen ourselves. Now, this doesn't mean it's your fault. It just means that the relationship, like everything else, is typically a mirror, which is annoying. I say this to my clients when, we talk about how often it's us who is the impediment or the barrier to getting what we want. That's frustrating, but it's truth. And that's what the law of correspondence invites us to look at. Am I being what I want to receive? Where am I outsourcing my worth, my needs, my desires? And where can I come back home to myself first? Because sometimes we want to reconnect, but we can't access it. And that's not a mindset issue. I really tried to do it that way. I tried to sort things out from my mind and my head first and kind of forsake the rest. But it's actually, or what I've experienced, is a nervous system issue. So let's talk about that piece, because I think it's incredibly important, and it's absolutely what has unlocked so much is when I've connected the mindset piece with the nervous system piece. So when you have been through a lot, and I know that you have if you are here listening to this, your nervous system gets stuck in survival mode. Whether it's divorce or job loss, chronic people pleasing, or just too much too fast, your body then gets wired for stress, hypervigilance, shutdown, fawning. And from that state, it actually becomes really, really hard to access clarity, creativity, or self-trust. You might know what you want, but your system doesn't feel safe enough to go after it. You might try to be magnetic, but underneath you're bracing for disappointment. And you might want to soften into connection, but your body's still scanning for danger. And this is the layer that I didn't understand until years later in my healing and growth journey, that chronic stress changes your nervous system. It changes what you have access to and capacity for in your body, your brain, and your choices. When you're living in a constant stress response, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, you can't just mindset your way into embodiment. You can't manifest clearly, and you're not going to be able to connect fully. Your body is way too busy just trying to survive. And this is where I see so many women get discouraged. But they go to the workshops and they click on the freebies on Instagram that promise to unlock their inner goddess, or be in their feminine, or show up like a boss babe, or whatever the buzzword on Instagram that I fell for too. I wanted so desperately to be all those things. But then I wondered why it didn't work and why it didn't feel safe to do it. And it didn't land. And so now you feel like you're performing softness and power instead of actually embodying it. And it's not that there's anything wrong with you. It's just that the nervous system is protecting you and doing what it is wired to do. It is wired for survival, not success. So until you've tended to those stress responses and taught your system that it's safe to be seen or to rest, to expand, all of those high vibe experiences will be built on a shaky ground or a shaky foundation, which I just covered in a recent episode. I'm going to link that in the show notes. And this is why the question isn't just, what do I want? It's, does my body believe it's safe to have it? And so this is the invisible weight of the chronic stress and why the nervous system work is so essential. Before we can be, we have to feel safe enough to be. That's why dropping into the body daily is one of the most powerful acts of self-reconnection. That's why I created this 7-day microregulation toolkit, because I know that there's a lot of women who are listening to this, and men too. I know you're listening here, but you think that you don't have time for true, honest self-care. And that's why I designed that 7-day microregulation challenge. But here's what I want to talk about next. So let's play with this together. I want you to think about, who do you want to be? I want you to think about the qualities that you want to embody. Maybe it's confidence or joyfulness, safe, magnetic, loved, whatever those be. Like maybe grab a piece of paper or open up the notes in your phone. But the second thing I want you to consider is what helps you to embody those qualities. Is it nature? Is it breath work, rest? Is it honest friendships with really good conversations that aren't circular and revolving around a bar and drinks? Is it creative expression and gratitude, saying no? Like, these aren't just practices, they are proof. They're the evidence that you're becoming the version of you who creates what she wants. And some of the practices that help me create momentum and to stay anchored: daily affirmations, like I am worthy of love and respect, or I trust myself to rebuild, or I release the past and reclaim my power. And of course, I integrate it with mindfulness practices. Breathing deeply when I start my day, I walk without my phone, I check in with my body instead of checking out and pushing through. And I journal my gratitude. Even when everything felt hard, I wrote down 3 things each day. Sometimes it was just my dog, my breath, sunlight, the coffee, something simple. But these small acts all add up. And they are part of what helps to rewire your nervous system and to reprogram your identity. But of course, like, we can't just stop there. What really put things into high gear and really started shifting things was when I started actively closing open stress and trauma loops in my body. And the most effective way that I have found to do that is with deep feeling breathwork journeys, where we go in, we access the limbic part of the brain, where we can access true change and heal things in a non-linear time span. That is what cracked everything open, and that is what's forming the basis of my work. I used to keep everything separate, like long journeys that I would lead at yoga studios or corporate things, and I would have my coaching work. But now they're very much integrated because I see the power and the benefit based on my own experience and how much farther along I've now got because of implementing a weekly ritual where I go deep and close stress loops. Like, there are the big stressors that happen and the big traumas that have happened, but there's also the imperceptible stressors that build every day that we don't really acknowledge, and we have to close those, just like animals do in the wild. And we have this capability of doing it too, but we don't learn about it and we don't access it. So I'm really excited about integrating that into my work on a consistent basis, especially with my one-on-one coaching clients. And I'll link something in the show notes so you can go read about that. But I also want to say that, and be real, because that's what we do here, life is going to life. Just because you're on a healing path doesn't mean it's going to be linear. But what you can do is pause to separate the fact from the story. And you can ask, like, what is this showing me? And then move forward slowly, intentionally, lovingly. Like, I think that we get into this hustle culture where we want everything yesterday. We want the healing, but we don't want the messy middle. We just want, like, all the glory, but none of the bad stuff. But we need to slow things down and recognize that everything is happening for us and not to us. Like, that's not just a fun Instagram quote that people put up. Like, it's what I have come to learn is fact. And I know that perhaps if you're listening to this, you might be in a circumstance or situation right now where you're like, how is this happening for me? Like, this feels impossible. But I just invite you to trust that you will survive this too, whatever it is. And that you might feel broken, but you are not broken, especially if you have a setback. Like, you're human, you're learning, you're unlearning program beliefs and conditioning and stress responses that have been at play for years. A lot of our patterns are formed from a young age. And so just think of all the time that's accumulated you in reinforcing that condition or that pattern. And it takes a little bit of time, and it takes facilitations that are deliberate and careful about guiding you through it again. But it is possible to unlearn those things and start fresh. And all of that to say also that, like, you don't have to do this alone. I know that you're strong. I know you've got this, and I know you are probably the one that others rely on. But you're also allowed to ask for help. Support isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I tell my I tell the She Walks community when I'm on facilitating those calls, because people in that realm will live with this uncertainty about their relationship with alcohol for so long because they don't want to ask for help because they think that it's weakness. But it is not. It's like the strongest thing that you can do and the fastest way to get what you want also. And whether that is a coach like me, a friend, or taking a breathwork class to like dip your toes in, or a women's group like She Walks Canada, let yourself be held. Like, we go farther when we go together. Now, as you move forward, I want you to remember this. You are not late. You're not behind. And again, you're not broken. You are in the process of becoming. The past is over. The future isn't here yet. But right here in this moment, you get to choose something different. You get to ask, finally, what do I really want? And you get to become the version of you who creates that. So thank you for listening to today's episode. If this episode has moved you at all, send it to a friend, leave me a review, send me an email, catch me on Instagram at The Deliberate One. I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, breathe it in, be deliberate, and please be good to yourself.